Hey guys, welcome back. It's your host Ben at I'm Just a Fan, and today we're going to be recapping about the NBA Finals. I just wanted to say sorry for, not that I think it's a big deal, but my shirt is off today. My hair's a little crazy. I just got back from the gym. My bathroom just got sprayed for bugs, so I can't go in there right now, but I just am waiting to get all this stuff done and wanted to record a video because I really wanted to get this out before the game on Thursday. So just kind of doing this like I usually do, but again, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm showing off my shirt or my chest. It's just more like I am a sweaty mess right now and I literally just can't shower. Not that I think anyone gave a shit, but this is going to be different than how I do most of my videos. So first we got to start with the matchup, Mavs versus Celtics. This is a matchup that I wouldn't say anyone really saw, but people definitely saw the Celtics going to the finals. I definitely did. I mean, I put a little money on them just to at least go to the finals. Now, am I going to say if they won the finals? We'll get into that later in the video, but I think most people thought the Celtics were going to be at least the favorites to go to the finals out of the East going into the season. All you really had as real threats were, again, Boston in itself. You had Milwaukee, but it was a big X factor if Dame would actually click with that team. You had the Knicks, but I don't think anyone thought the Knicks were going to be what the Knicks became this year. So there wasn't as much, I would say, hype to go to the finals for them. Then the Sixers, not really. I don't know. I didn't feel like the Sixers had a chance to go to the finals this year, and I'm saying that as a Sixers fan. Trying to think of anyone else. I guess Cleveland. I don't think anyone saw them going to the finals, so they were the clear-cut favorites to go out of the East, barring anything happened in typical Celtics fashion that they fuck it up for themselves and don't end up going. But no, they ended up going, so I have to give congrats to Boston. Next, we're going to be talking about the Dallas Mavericks. This team's led by Luka, and he has his sidekick, or Robin, Kyrie Irving. You have the rest of the team. A bunch of guys, honestly. You got PJ Washington, they got at the trade deadline. You got your two bigs, Gafford, who you also got at the deadline. And you got Lively. You got some shooters on that team as well. You got Hardaway. You got a guy that, I guess he can shoot the ball a little bit, but also can get to the paint. You got Derrick Jones Jr. So you got some guys on this team. There are some guys, but kind of almost the opposite of what is being said about the Celtics, even going into this year, is I don't think anyone thought Dallas was going to be in this position at this time of the year. I didn't think, and I'll say this just to be honest, I didn't think that Kyrie was gonna work out with Luka. I was really like, this is very guard oriented for this team. So I was kind of worried about them defensively, especially with, let's be honest, Luka's not the best defender. But that wasn't the case. This team, they had their things they needed to figure out. But once they hit the trade deadline, they made a couple moves. I'm assuming Kidd made some adjustments when coaching. This team's been really, really good since the deadline, and that's the reason why they're here. So, again, I wanted to give congratulations to Dallas as well. Even though I hate the Cowboys, I'll give credit to the Mavericks. We don't have any beef over here. So kind of just jumping into the Celtics run. The Celtics had the case of having an easy run to the finals. Now, is this their fault? No, they don't control who they're going to play. That's not part of that. It's all about just getting that first seed, and that's what they did, and you got to give Boston credit for that. So Boston ended up playing Miami in the first series, or I guess in the first round of the playoffs. That went about as expected. You could have said maybe a sweep. I had Miami. I had the Celtics in 5. And that's what happened. Of course, the Celtics had a little stinker in game 2. But again, Miami also shot really, really well that game. And let's be honest, we knew that wasn't going to happen. So Celtics got them out the way quick. Jimmy Butler not being there as well was a huge factor. That's just going to limit Miami's offensive potential. I kind of just wanted that series to end, to be honest. I know there was some lore from the last couple years. You know, the Heat beat them in the bubble to go to the finals. And then last year, Boston just, I don't really know. I'd have to kind of go back and look, but from what I remember, they were just choking games and then were finally making a comeback, and then they still choked, so Miami again went to the finals, and really, in my opinion, Boston at least was the better team last year. But yeah, Jimmy being out was a factor, but Miami, they got swept, or not swept, but it was a gentleman's sweep. Like, they got pushed out pretty quick, so Shout out to Boston for doing that. Then next, they played the Cleveland Cavaliers. Again, I had the Celtics in 5, and that's what happened. Celtics pretty much just showed that they're the better team. Kind of same situation as Miami, but on different circumstances. They're just a better team than the Cavs. The Cavs are a little different roster-wise than Miami, a little bit more star power than the depth that Miami has with the shooters, with Robinson and Hero and the other guys. But the Cavs have showed the last year and a half, honestly, that there have been at least locker room problems, especially with the reports now coming out the last couple of weeks about Garland and Mitchell. You're going to have to potentially choose one who to have back next year. That's a mess that I'm glad my organization is not in. But we all knew Cleveland, again, they were not going to be a real threat to Boston. Yes, they were. At some point, I don't remember when they slipped, but earlier in the season, they were the 2nd seed for a bit. So, again, they were a threat, but were they a real threat? No. I don't think they were a real threat, and that's why they lost in 5. So, again, credit to Boston. They got through that, and they just moved on to the next round. So, on to the ECF. They ended up playing the Pacers. I will say, as much as I do not like New York sports, I wanted to see the Knicks play Boston in the ECF. I just thought it would have been better for the storylines and better for really just the storylines. And in my opinion, the Knicks are a better team than the Pacers. But now we got to, of course, touch on the Knicks just killed themselves in the first 2 rounds. Thibodeau was running these guys into the dirt. You had Hart playing an insane amount of minutes to start the playoffs. Pretty much all the starters were playing. You could barely go to the bench, and injuries started to happen. OG got hurt. It was just bodies were going down, and the Knicks ended up actually losing to the Pacers in 7. They just got straight up outshot at the Garden, not enough bodies, and the Pacers moved on. So I have to give credit to Indiana for even doing that, but that's where the excitement kind of got killed for me a little bit. We all knew, I was going to watch. We all knew that Boston was going to take care of this team, and it didn't even take a gentleman's sweep. It was just a straight-up sweep. Now, again, another argument that people are using against Boston is Halliburton got hurt in that second game and never returned to the series. I understand your argument, but at the same time, this guy wasn't, in my opinion, wasn't going to change the series for at least the outcome of the series, and maybe he would have stretched it another game. It was definitely more competitive in the first game with Halliburton, but he also ended up making a big turnover in the crunch. So I don't know. It maybe would have gone one more game, but I hate using that argument against Boston. It's not their fault that they had to deal with that weak East. It's not Boston's fault that they are having such an easy East, though. The Knicks ended up just wearing themselves out to beat the Sixers, and then it didn't even last enough for them to make it to the ECF, where they lost to Indiana. And as I expanded on earlier, there's just been a lot of weird things with the East. So this was their year, and that's why I had Boston, go to the finals. No one else from the East was getting in their way, and that's exactly what we saw. And yeah, I just wanted to give credit to Boston. I hate the Celtics. I do as a Sixers fan. It's kind of part of just being a Sixers fan, even though we can't really talk any smack right now because this team consistently suns us. We are the sons of the Boston Celtics. I've never seen the Sixers beat the Celtics in a playoff series. They just completely own the East. They pretty much took it over after LeBron left. So, yeah, I hate that logo, but I do got to say I love that. Oh, I won't say I love the team, but I like watching that team play. Tatum and Brown are very fun to watch. Derek White's career year, if you want to say, has been really cool to watch too. Porzingis, before he got hurt, was a great addition to that team. Al Horford balling out. Of course, this guy's almost 40 and he's still killing it. Like, why couldn't he have done this for the Sixers? But that's a whole nother discussion. They just have a ton of depth, and I just got to give them credit. This is a fantastic team, but this is the year. Cap is going to start getting a little tighter, and the East is only going to get better. So this is the year, and they got to take advantage of that. I forgot to mention this as well. Shout out to the Celtics for getting Jrue Holiday. This guy's been a huge addition to the team. I was worried with the fit, not necessarily defensively because I knew he was going to help them out, but just, how would he be offensively? The last couple playoffs, he's kind of had some stinkers with Milwaukee, but we've seen that this guy is just all ball. I mean, he had some very, very clutch plays in the Indiana series where he stripped the ball to, I'm pretty sure it's the Silac game in Game 4. He's been an X factor, and defensively, he's just another body that Boston can throw at that team or at Dallas. So, I got to give credit to Boston. I feel like I've said that a billion times, but shout out to them. They've had a fantastic year. All right, so now Dallas has been just a completely different story than the Celtics. They had a toss-up series, in my opinion, going into it versus the Clippers. The reason for that, for me at least, was that Kawhi's health was kind of on the fence, so we didn't know where he was with that. But also, these series with the Clippers and Mavs have always been tight, especially since Luka has been there. But Luka did his thing, even when he wasn't shooting well, specifically from 3. They still got past him in 6. And I got to give Dallas credit for that. I'm honestly okay with the outcome. The Clippers, for me, are just not a team I want to see go far without Kawhi Leonard. It's the same stuff every single year. They're a decent team during the regular season, or they even peaked like they did back in January, February, March. They had that crazy run. And then it's just the same stuff. Guys are hurt, and the availability goes down, and that's really all it is. So I'm okay with Dallas going forward with this with the series, at least, just because, in my opinion, seeing Kyrie and Luka play is just, at least for me, more enjoyable than watching the Clippers without Kawhi. So I was okay with that. Next, they played OKC. Again, this was a toss-up series for me. I was really worried about OKC's rebounding, and that ended up being true because, as much as I love Chet, I literally drafted him in my Dynasty League. He just cannot play at the 5 consistently against a big guy. And Dallas really went at them with Gafford and Lively. And it was just, that was kind of, in my opinion, the series. Also, it was just more OKC hasn't been there. This is their first year really going deep into the playoffs, especially being a 1 seed. I wouldn't call them a fraud 1 seed, but I just thought that they were a little early to kind of go really far this year. So I'm not shocked with the result, but I got to give credit to Dallas again, beating OKC in 6, and yeah, just got to give him credit for that. And now, of course, we'll talk about the Western Conference Finals. Western Conference Finals was a little different. I was really expecting Denver. I thought Denver was going to beat Minnesota in that Game 7. That series was all over the place, but it ended up resulting in Minnesota winning, which was shocking to say the least. And there was definitely a lot of Minnesota favoritism, specifically the media kind of anointing Ant as the next guy of the NBA, and rightfully so. He plays like Jordan and Kobe, similar frames. He's American, he's young. The NBA needs more American talent, so I totally get it. And specifically, this guy's got charisma. He's a very, just an overall good routed guy, and he's definitely made for the league and to be a star. But I felt like all that talk, well, it's not even I felt like, that talk just went down after the series, and we'll get into that now. So Dallas got through the series in 5 games, which really shocked me. I had this series going either 7 or 6 minimum. But again, Minnesota's lack of home court really struck in the first 2 games. Dallas had taken both games on the road, specifically that I really think back to that big shot by Luka where he switched on to Gobert and took that 3 and pulled it on him. I know Gobert's getting a lot of crap from everyone, but I can't really hate on Gobert, at least in that moment, just because it's like, dude, who's realistically blocking that shot or contesting that shot? Luka is arguably top 2 player in the league right now, so I can't fully hate on Gobert in that moment. But what I can say is the main reason I really thought the Timberwolves just didn't get it done was pretty much because Cat and Ant had a lot of costly turnovers, and he didn't play very well in the first couple games. And Cat, those first 3 games, he just straight up sucked. Like, he sucked. He came back in Game 4, hit a couple big shots, specifically down the stretch, and so did Ant. Ant was coming alive, and they did force a Game 5, but that was wrapped up real quick by Luka and the Mavs. The stuff I saw from Luka, specifically in that first quarter of that game 5, was just on another level. This guy, he just goes at the opponent. He will take the shots. He gets aggressive early, goes to the rack, all that stuff. He doesn't wait for you to play your ball. He's going to play his ball, and then you're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to adapt to him. Not, oh, we're going to set the pace. We're at home. No. This guy came out just shooting. I think he had 20 points in the first quarter or something like that. I pretty much waited, I would say, until the end of the third to see if this game would even become close. There was a slight run by Minnesota, but it was shut down real quick, and Dallas moved on, and it was just really impressive, especially, again, after all the media attention. I mean, I felt like after Denver lost that series, it was pretty much penciled in that Minnesota was minimum going to the finals. And I was kind of sipping the Kool-Aid as well. I'm not even going to say I wasn't. But I still was a little worried about could Ant handle that moment at 22? And I don't think that really is a huge reflection of Ant. He's only 22. But at the same time, I just think the media needs to kind of take this as a lesson. Like, you guys almost poked the bear. Like, Luka saw all the stuff you guys were saying and just threw it in the trash. And he pretty much just started hitting shots, doing his thing, and commanding the series, and that's what he did, and that's why they moved on that one in 5. So again, I want to give credit to the Mavs, Kyrie coming back as a real threat this year, and Jason Kidd for coaching a great, phenomenal job down in the last couple months, and overall just the entire Mavs organization. This is stuff you want to see. You know, Luka has been in the league since I think 18 now. And I've been waiting for this guy to eventually go on a deep finals run, and it just hasn't happened. And I'm finally glad it happened, because this guy is definitely something that everyone needs to watch. Like, this guy is just phenomenal, and he's definitely becoming one of my favorite players, at least, to watch in the NBA. Just wanted to touch a little bit more on Kyrie, because I feel like I didn't expand on that as much as I would have liked. I was really excited to see his game this playoffs. I know at times he did have some bad nights, but overall, he did step up when he needed to. I forget which game. I think it might have been game 1, actually, of that Minnesota series, but he was hitting some big shots. Like, this guy came to play, and I just kind of wanted to touch on this a little bit. I wasn't in love with the stuff that Kyrie was doing off the court. There's numerous things, and we don't need to get into them now. But strictly ball-wise, I mean, this guy is just phenomenal to watch. I hate to say it, but he might be a better finisher than Allen Iverson. Now, I didn't watch Allen Iverson in real life or real time, but of course, as a Sixers fan, it's been installed in me that this guy's the best finisher of all time. Yada yada yada. But I think you might have to give that to Kyrie, because this guy just continues to be such a spectacular player. His play style is art, if you want to call it that. That's how I interpret it, at least. Like, it's just a beautiful way to play the game of basketball. And I don't know where I saw this. I don't know if it was on like socials or something like that. I'd have to check. But the comparison that he is pretty much a baseball reliever is just fantastic. The second Luka subs out, Kyrie knows, okay, I got to step up. I got to take shots. I got to control this offense and continue the pace and keep the momentum going. It's just really cool to see. You don't see a ton of that in the NBA now, and I just think it's surprisingly a way better duo with Kyrie and Luka than we would have ever anticipated after that trade had happened last spring. So, yeah, I just wanted to give Kyrie his flowers, because I feel like I didn't give them before. So, just kind of wanted to actually touch on the matchup itself. So the finals, of course, they will start this Thursday. I'm recording this on the Tuesday, so the 4th. So I hope to get this up by then, but maybe you'll know the outcome of Game 1 if I get it out too late. But going into the series, Vegas has the Celtics as minus 230 favorites to win the finals, which I do have to agree with. I'm going to give my predictions here. I was originally leaning Boston in 6. But I'm going to go Boston in 7. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of sipping a little bit of the public Kool-Aid on the Mavs. But at the same time, I don't know. I'll go Boston in 7 strictly just because of now I really don't know what I want to do. You know what? I'll get ballsy. With Porzingis being announced today that he's going to start game one, which though could be a little weird because this guy's like barely played in the playoffs, and this is like the biggest moment of his career by far. But I'm going to go Boston in 6, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. But yeah, Boston in 6, and I'm going to go Tatum for Finals MVP if the Celtics win. I just feel like the media is hoping for this guy to have a big moment in the NBA playoffs, specifically the Finals. He didn't really show up as much as you would have liked in that Finals against Golden State. So I feel like if there is a moment that the Celtics, of course, do win the series and there's a huge play or a moment down the stretch that Tatum has, I think that could take him to the top to kind of be anointed, because I originally was leaning Jaylen Brown. I feel like Jaylen Brown has played as good, if not even better, than Tatum in the playoffs this year. But I just feel like the media is fiending for Tatum to go really have that moment and become the guy that we've all thought he was going to become. So I'm going to go Tatum there, but if Dallas does win this, I'm going to go Luka. I mean, this guy's averaging a triple-double pretty much heading into this series, so why could I not choose him? But yeah, that's who I have going into the series and how I think the series will play out. And the reason I think Celtics are going to win this series is, honestly, I just think they have more guys to guard. Number one, they have a little bit more rest than the Mavs. They've had all shorter series than the Mavs, and they ended the ECF earlier than the WCF. Number two, they have home court advantage, though that has showed recently the last couple years in the NBA that might not even matter. Number three this is where the basketball comes in. Though Luka and Kyrie are phenomenal, I just think there's too many guys that the Celtics can throw at the Mavericks, and I think they almost match up really well against them. Like, if I'm Boston, maybe you throw a couple guys at Luka, but I want to see Tatum on Luka. Now, we'll see how much that gasses him, and if that starts impacting his offensive output, then maybe we have a different discussion. But I think Tatum is by far the best option to go and guard Luka. And then Kyrie, if you want to make an argument, Kyrie's going to go off, which I still think he's going to get his. It's not that I don't think him and Luka are going to get his, but it's just going to be harder. You got Jaylen Brown. You got Derek White. You even got Al Horford. Who else? I'm blanking. I mean, that's the starters. On the bench, Peyton Pritchard's not going to guard him. You got Derek White. I keep forgetting this guy's name. Drew Holiday. Oh my gosh. I don't know why I keep forgetting Drew is on the Celtics. You got Drew Holiday. There's just too many bodies at a guy that I think, specifically with these guys playing good defense, specifically Drew, I just think it's going to be tough for one of these two main scorers, and I think that's really going to be the deciding factor for Boston. Also, with KP coming back, it's just another body that they can do, or that they can throw at Dallas. So I just think it's going to be, Celtics in 6, and it's mostly just because they just have better depth and they just have more body and more rest, and I think that's going to match up well for them in the long term. So if the Celtics win, I think this arguably cements them as one of I don't know about necessarily the greatest team of all time. It's definitely not the greatest team of all time, but one of the at least better modern teams of our era. This team went 64-18 in the East this year, and now they've gone 12-2 in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure that math is 76-20. Could be wrong, but regardless, this team has been on a tear all year, and we have all known this as NBA fans that this is the year that they're supposed to get this done. I mean, I feel like our expectations have been a little higher for them. The Celtics have had higher expectations just because they've been winning so much. I mean, we've seen Tatum compete with LeBron in a Game 7 in his rookie year. Like, we've become very familiar with them. They've choked in big moments against Miami. I don't know about choked, but they didn't win the series against Golden State. Like, we have been pretty much conditioned that this team is supposed to win, and I think that's what's going to happen. So, I don't know. I just think that they are arguably one of the better teams in the last couple of years, though. I mean, if they, let's say, hypothetically, if Boston wins this series, they're, I don't know if they're better than last year's team with Denver, but I think they can compete. The Golden State team, I don't know. Again, I don't know if I'd say they're better than them just because Curry was on one that year. But at the same time, I think they might be able to win that series now with the added depth that they have, just because Porzingis is going to be a big factor down low. I mean, you put him on Looney at the time, and I think things change, and you put Holiday on Poole. Like, I don't know. Honestly, the way I'm talking, I'm probably leaning the Celtics. Of course, I don't know if they're better than the Laker bubble team. Again, that team just had a lot of depth, and that was just a weird year regardless. But then even that Kawhi team, better than that team. And then, obviously, they're not better than any of the Golden State Dynasty teams. I'm counting strictly just Kevin Durant. But still, they're by far one of the better championships teams if they win this year in the last couple years. So I just think they've been on such an insane path. Again, I'm actively rooting against the Celtics, but I do have to acknowledge greatness when it's there, and if they do win, I mean, this is just one of the more dominant runs we've seen in a very long time from an NBA team. I think that if the Celtics do win, Tatum and Brown specifically will go to another level for their legacy. I don't know what's going to happen in this series, but like I said earlier, I think the media really, really, really wants Tatum to have that moment. They're just kind of waiting on it, especially now with Ant not being in. There's no more American star that they can really prop up and love. I mean, they're not going to love Kyrie, like, after all the stuff he's done and pissed off the media. So I think the media is going to be looking for that. But yeah, if Boston wins, I mean, I don't even know how many conference finals that team's been to. They've already been to a finals. They would be 1-1 in finals now. Like, I just think that's huge for both Brown and Tatum. And I got to give credit to Brown as well. I was really hesitant on that contract. I thought he deserved it, but there were clear problems in his game last year. Kind of when he would dribble to the left, like it was kind of a meme. Or he couldn't dribble to the left. I can't remember exactly what the meme was. But I got to say, he's played hungry this year. He's played almost hungrier. And that's after getting a max contract. So I got to give credit to Jaylen Brown as well. But yeah, I think the Celtics overall, but specifically those two guys, their legacies just go to a different level if they win this championship. Now, if Dallas wins this championship, again, the legacies are going to change a little bit. Luka's going to already have one championship at, I think, 24 or 25. Like, that's pretty crazy stuff. He got there earlier than, if he does win, he got there earlier than we expected. And then I think, though I would still argue Jokic is the better player overall, you can make the argument for Luka Doncic, regardless of even how this finals goes, as the best player in the NBA already. And if he wins the NBA championship and gets finals MVP, I mean, like, this is all we're going to hear for the next 3 to 4 months. So you got to get used to it. But I think legacy-wise it would be huge for Luka, because we're going to start having all these talks that we have with Giannis. I'm trying to think of the younger stars that have won, I guess, recently. Maybe not Giannis, we've already... Sorry, my camera... It did this last video. It, like, cut out, or, like, it stopped recording, but it was still recording my audio. Regardless, the point I was making is, I feel like if Luka wins, we're going to start kind of seeing his career like how we saw Giannis and how we saw Jokic. Okay, you won a championship. How many more can you get? Because this team isn't going anywhere. He's young. This organization is committed to him. I just think he's going to be a player in the West. Now, of course, the West is very bloated with a lot of good teams, so I don't know how many more chances he's going to get, specifically with Denver. I mean, Denver going out earlier than expected this year was big, but yeah, I just think he's going to be kind of put in that, like, Giannis and Jokic category where we're just like, this guy's going to win like 3 to 4 championships if everything works out. So I'm excited to see that. And then Kyrie, I think this does a lot for his legacy. Again, I touched about this a little bit earlier in the video, but this guy was really getting doubted by a lot of people, including me. And a lot of it was not ball related, but even when it came to ball, he wasn't on the court a lot, either because of his own actions or because of injury, and he missed a lot of key time in the playoffs the last couple of years. So the public perception of Kyrie was still going down. I think everyone still knew Kyrie was a baller, but you had to deal with the headache and the rest of the stuff with him. But he hasn't been that, and I think a second championship for Kyrie would just be huge. I mean, again, that's the second one in general. He then, in my opinion, you really got to start boosting him up even higher on the point guard rankings of all time. I don't know where you would put him, but I mean, he'd have 2 championships, and that's on a different level. I mean, again, he's already had 1, and he's had 1 for a really long time, but 2 is a big deal. 2 is a big deal, specifically when the last championship you won was in 2016. It's 2024, and the fact that you're still contributing to a team as, I'll say he's a 2, but he's a nice 1B to Luka. He's still by far the second best scorer on this team, and the fact that he's contributing this late in his career and just shows that he's matured and he's just enjoying life. He seems to be happier, less controversy. So I got to give it to Kyrie. I just think this would be huge for his legacy, and maybe we can even do a little video on where we'd rank him if they do win a championship after this run. So yeah, I just think legacy-wise it would be huge for him and Luka Doncic. Last point I just wanted to make was, man, I can't wait for the shit talking in this series between the Boston fans and Kyrie. We all know about how Kyrie went there, and then he said he was going to stay for a really long time, or he's going to sign his deal, and then he ends up leaving. He stepped on the logo. He gave the fans the bird a couple years ago. Now I know he's just actually come out, I think it was today or yesterday, that he said that these actions don't really reflect who he is now, which is valid, but this is something that fans aren't going to forget. So I think this is just going to be really nice for the actual just optics of the game, specifically because these are East Coast fans, and as an East Coast fan myself, I know how much of dickheads we can be sometimes. So I know Boston's going to let this guy hear it, but at the same time I'm going to be rooting for him because I don't like the Celtics. So I'm just really excited for this series. It's more exciting than I was expecting it to be. I remember when I first thought about the actual idea of a Celtics-Mavs final, I was like, eh. But when you really start to put in all the storylines, all the legacy stuff for these guys, I just think it's a really good series. I'd almost argue that it's arguably better than a Minnesota series, I think, at least. Just from a storyline perspective, there's just not as much of that lure with Kyrie and the Celtics as if Ant was coming in as a 22-year-old. Like, okay, what affiliation does he have to the Celtics or any beef with the Celtics? So I just think this is going to be a really good final, and I'm excited to see how it all goes. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments. Comment what you think is going to happen in this series. Do you have the Celtics? Do you have the Mavericks? Just let me know. If you enjoy this type of content, I'm going to continue to keep putting it out. And if you like it, like I said, you're more than free to subscribe. If you don't like my videos, you don't want to subscribe, power to you. I'm not forcing you to do anything. I only want people here that rock with me. So if I'm your cup of tea, then I'm your cup of tea. If I'm not, I'm not. But I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video regardless. All your time watching these are appreciated, and this is something I just love to do, and I'm going to keep doing it. I can't wait to talk to you guys soon. You guys stay safe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace, guys.